I know you're out there. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin. I'm going to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. A world without rules and controls, without borders or boundaries. A world where anything is possible. Where we go from there is a choice I leave to you.
The Krisanne Hall Show.
Any varmint that crosses that lady's path has met its match. Come on!
Rise and shine, liberty-loving patriots. Welcome to the Krisanne Hall Show. This is Pastor J.C. Hall filling in for Krisanne today. Glad you could join us. Let me ask you something. Have you checked America's insanity meter today? I mean, seriously, do you ever feel like you just want someone to stop this Ferris wheel and let you get off? I mean, it seems like it's an absolute circus out there. It's unbelievable, the world we live in, the stuff we're surrounded by and bombarded with every single day. It seems like the stupidity, the insanity, the tyranny, the outlandish nature of our government just piles up day after day after day. It is absolutely insane. I mean, you've got this nonstop Ebola play-by-play, every channel, every moment of every day. And maybe I'm weird, but the most frightening thing about the whole Ebola saga to me is the realization of how easily the government will be able to get people to beg for martial law. I'm serious. I mean, I'm not trying to downplay this whole Ebola thing, but we've got 3 infections and 1 death, and it's sheer panic. I'm not saying it's not something to be concerned about. It's just interesting to see all of this going on at one time. The total incompetence and unpreparedness of this nation's leadership. And then the level of hysteria we're seeing where people are calling for, czars and holding facilities and quarantines of entire towns, communities, forced blood tests, all this sort of thing. And I'm hearing these on conservative shows and conservative people talking about how we need to empower the government and do this and restrict these people here and shut down this and have these places we can lock people up and all sorts of things. And, maybe dealing with infected people and some of this makes sense. But just imagine, I mean, you're talking 3 infections and 1 death. Imagine if it were 1,000 deaths. I mean, people would be begging for the government to lock us in our own homes. I mean, it's just crazy. And it's insane, all the demand. This is constant. It's always the same. This demand for government save us, and government, you're supposed to do this, supposed to do that, and all this sort of stuff. And government has proven to be completely incompetent, completely unprepared, over and over again in just about everything that they do. They make a complete debacle of it. And then when you put the kind of leadership we have now, I mean, that's government in general, and now you top that off with the absolute most incompetent people that we've ever had in our nation's leadership, and then coupled with not all of them being incompetent, but many of them doing all of this on purpose, and you put all that together already with the natural, the nature of government as it is, it's an absolute circus. It's a total nightmare. And so then we naturally react to something that may be a very serious issue, and great opportunity for them to expand the boundaries of tyranny and have us actually asking for it. Just crazy. Of course, then you got the vice president's son booted out of the National Guard for being a crackhead. I mean, I thought drug abuse was a resume builder for Democrats. So I don't really understand the uproar with that. Maybe if he learned to play the saxophone and raped a few women from Arkansas, he could run for president. I don't know. I'm just saying. It ought to be a plus for Democrat royalty. Oh, how about Senator Gillibrand? Here's talking about a circus. Here's a big clown of clowns here, total lunatic. Miss Gillibrand's one of these brainwashed and brain-dead feminists. And she says this week, women are more free in Afghanistan and Pakistan than the good old USA. Anybody know how many female senators or reps or whatever they're called that are in Afghanistan? I mean, seriously, only in America can you have a female rise to the level of U.S. senator and believe she would have more liberty in Afghanistan. That's the kind of America we're living in. That's the kind of lunatics we have running this country. I mean, only in America could you rise to the level of attorney general or president and claim that you're the victim of racism in this fundamentally flawed nation. Really. I mean, only in America. Only in America you can claim that you're being oppressed because someone won't buy your condoms for you. You talk about a circus. I mean, that's where we live, folks. This is a place where you find poor people who are suffering from obesity. I mean, really, we don't even know what poor is. We don't even know what lack is. But we have a nation full of ungrateful people who think they're lacking what they're supposed to have, that they deserve all this stuff, and it's supposed to just be handed to them. And, you know, I mean, how can you be so clueless to the blessings around you, how blessed you are, how privileged you are in this world to be a U.S. senator, and you're oppressed, and people have more liberty than you around the world? Hey, Miss Gillibrand, whatever your name is, who really cares? How about we drop you off in the plains of Africa, you know, just in the middle of nowhere, and you fend for yourself, or maybe Afghanistan, these places that you love so much. Let's just drop her off in the middle of Afghanistan, put her in a mini skirt, and you know, have at it. Go ask the Taliban for help. See how that works out for you. If it's so much freer over there, how about we all take up a collection and buy you a plane ticket, and you can go be free? I think Miss Sillybrand maybe has been hitting the crack pipe with little Joey Biden. I'm not really sure, you know, what goes on at those crazy parties, but clearly they've been on the crazy pipe at the crazy party. A bunch of stinking crackheads that we've got running this country. How do we elect people like this? Well, you know how. I know how. I understand that. The people voting are as crazy as the people they're electing, as brainwashed as the people they're electing, or just a bunch of useful idiots that have been turned into brain-dead, mindless dependence on government. And it's just a travesty. I don't know if this ever happens to you. We were coming home today. I took Colton to a little show last night, and you know, we were coming home. We had to stop and pick up a couple things at the store. So we're in line, and here's this family, a mother with her two 20-something adult children, and they're loaded up, cartons of cigarettes, cases of beer. Each one of them are covered with, 37 different tattoos that probably cost $200 a piece, which get all the tattoos you want. I don't care. It's not about tattoos. But the point is they all whip out their EBT card to load up their vehicle with truckload of cigarettes and cases of beer and steaks off of your tax dollars. You're footing the bill. So you're feeding these people. You're funding their drug habit and buying their tattoos. And rather than is, oh, well, people are out of work and people need this opportunity and 99 weeks of unemployment, blah, blah, blah. So if you need this, obviously they don't see it as an opportunity of help where that they can take this chance and find a job or, hold them over until things get better. No, it's free tattoos. It's free beer, free cigarettes, free steaks. Let's just live it up. And that's a huge voting block for these morons that we have running our country. And as long as they keep the faucet running, as long as they keep the free tattoos and free cigarettes and free booze and free steaks coming, then these people are going to keep voting for these morons that are destroying our nation, these idiots that think you're freer in Afghanistan, these morons who don't know what to do when people are getting infected. Here it comes from one country, but we don't want to stop those people from coming here. You've got 30 countries where the people are infected that have closed their borders. The people that are actually infected said, we're not letting our people leave the country if we can help it. But here, we're not stopping the people coming from there into our country from bringing this stuff in here that they knew about. Who knows? Maybe they cooked it up somewhere in a lab, and maybe there's some sinister people that are orchestrating it somewhere in the first place. I mean, that's how insane it is. I wouldn't put it past some of these folks. You don't know anymore. That's what kind of insane asylum we're living in. That's what kind of circus we're surrounded by. And of course, one of the biggest circuses now is happening in Houston, and the Queen of Houston, the first openly tyrannical Looney Tune in Houston, is pulling her shenanigans down there. We come back during the next segment. I want to talk to you about that and talk to you about how these pastors maybe should respond to this demand to turn over their sermons. I got some ideas about what the pastors maybe ought to do, and we'll talk about that in the next couple of segments. Stick around.
The Krisanne Hall Show. She's Liberties Lobbyist. Krisanne Hall Show. She's Liberties Lobbyist.
Welcome back to the Krisanne Hall Show. This is Pastor J.C. Hall filling in for Krisanne today. Don't forget to go to krisannehall.com and check out Krisanne's newly updated website, and you can find a lot of great resources there on the Constitution, on liberty issues. You can find the books in the store, her DVD for her constitutional seminar, and lots of free stuff, lots of stuff you can buy as gifts and give out to friends, make liberals angry, ruin some liberals' Christmas with a brand new Sovereign Duty book for Christmas. Wouldn't that be great? Send Sovereign Duty to all your liberal friends and neighbors. Maybe you don't have any liberal friends, but I'm sure you know some. You can get their addresses and send them copies of Sovereign Duty for Christmas. That's coming up. That would be fantastic. It'd be even better if you can invite them over and see them open it in front of you and be able to see the look on their face. Anyway, go to krisannehall.com. Check all that good stuff out. So I'm sure by now you've heard of the circus in Houston from Queen Anise Parker there, the city's first openly insane tyrant, and they also say she's gay. homosexual, lesbian, whatever you want to call that, whatever label you want to use, it doesn't really matter to me. I could care less. I really don't care. And who cares, really? Does anybody care that she's gay? I mean, who gives a rip? In fact, she could have taken the approach, but obviously she's part of the militant wing of the homosexual movement. But she could have taken the approach to just go in and do a good job for the city and, prove these pastors wrong if they're criticizing her or whatever, or whoever's criticizing. Just go in there, do your job. No, but that's not the kind of person we're dealing with. You see, because, there are some, I know some conservative homosexuals, as crazy as that may sound for some of you out there. I know reasonable people who are gay, and, but I'm sure they're the minority. And there is no question, there is a militant arm of the LGBT movement, or whatever it's called, that they're not interested in liberty. They operate out of a motive of revenge. They want power so that they can punish their perceived oppressors. Again, I have a radical opinion about the whole marriage issue. My opinion is government shouldn't be in the business of marriage whatsoever. Get the government out of marriage, take marriage out of the tax code, and you have eliminated the entire issue, because it's not about marriage, it's about money. That's what it's all about, benefits, because who cares if you have your marriage recognized? Oh, we recognize your marriage. Big deal. What does that do? It doesn't do anything. The point is benefits. They want benefits. The married people want their tax break. They want to be able to file like this. Take it out of the tax code, and we'd be done with this idiotic issue. You mind your business, I'll mind my business. Just keep the channels open for the gospel to do its work. Let me convince people with the word of God by the truth of our argument. If they can't be convinced, have a nice day, have a nice life, whatever. The problem is using the arm of government to enforce their opinions, using the arm of government to punish and get revenge against the evil straight people and white people and men and preachers and Christians. And that's what this lady is all about. So it has nothing to do with nothing. It's not about rights. It's not about liberty. It's about revenge. It's a motive of hate and hurt. She wants to punish these people. So now this tyrant, this anti-liberty Looney Tune in Houston, has demanded that the pastors hand over their sermons to the city where they may have talked about Miss Parker, or they may have talked about or preached about gender identity issues or homosexuality. She wants their text. She wants their phone calls, their emails, all this sort of stuff. And based on what? Some criminal activity? No. Based on something that's supposed to be protected by the United States Constitution. But unfortunately, they've passed some sort of ordinance, diversity, fairness ordinance in Houston, and now you no longer have free speech in Houston. This is a free speech free zone. And now you must pay and answer the queen. Come back and I'll tell you what these pastors should do.
The Krisanne Hall Show. She's Liberties Lobbyist. The Krisanne Hall Show. She's Liberties Lobbyist.
Welcome back to the Krisanne Hall Show. This is Pastor J.C. Hall sitting in for Krisanne today. Make sure you go to krisannehall.com. Check out all the great resources there on the website. Thank you for tuning in today. Thank you for downloading and listening to the podcast. And we hope that you will continue to do that. Share the podcast. We have a lot of folks that have given us feedback that somebody sent them the podcast. They found Krisanne and because somebody sent them the podcast to check it out. Just a guy the other day said somebody sent him the podcast. He went and he downloaded hundreds of it on his phone. Is just listening to it every day. It's like Liberty training for him. And so share, spread the message of liberty. Let's do what we can in our small little part that we're trying to fight this fight. But we're talking about the insanity going on in Houston. A little background on this thing. Probably most of you have heard of this. Maybe some of you haven't. I don't know. But this mayor of Houston, Anise Parker, has through the city attorneys filed a subpoena for the sermons of the Houston area pastors and their pastoral communications, their text, their emails, and just an absolutely in-your-face attack on American liberty. This is, I don't know. I mean, I don't know everything that's ever happened, but this seems, I would say, almost unprecedented. Maybe not, but this is way up there. I mean, really, really over the top, really blatant abuse of governmental power. But the thing apparently started with this, what they're calling a bathroom bill that was passed or filed, or some sort of ordinance that was passed in Houston, allowing, among other things, men to use the women's restroom and women to use the men's restroom. Now, come on, somebody please explain to me how that is an issue of liberty. Are you kidding me? What sort of reasonable explanation could anybody give, straight or otherwise, at why a man needs to go use the bathroom with women and women need to go use the bathroom with men? That's not an issue of liberty. That is just flat out perversion. Immorality, amorality, whatever you want to call it. So, obviously, a lot of residents did not care for this ordinance that the city council had passed, and they launched a petition and got over 50,000 signatures to put a referendum on the ballot. They only needed about 17,000, and once they got the 50,000 signatures on the petitions, the city threw out the petition. Said, "Oh well, there's irregularities in these signatures." Really, you found over 40,000 irregularities in 50,000 plus signatures. Seriously, no. The city just decided, we passed this. The people responded with their voice, and the city said, we're not going to listen to you. So complete and utter tyranny in the city of Houston, where that they're not listening to the citizens. They're going to do whatever they're going to do, again, to punish those who they feel are their oppressors, and going to shape the city in their own perverted image. But after this bathroom bill came on the scene, some folks filed a lawsuit, and the pastors of the current issue were not part of the lawsuit, but the pastors were members of this 400 church coalition that opposed the ordinance. So as soon as this lawsuit was filed, the city attorneys responded with subpoenas against the pastors to turn over their communications, all communications with members of your congregation, quote unquote, regarding the new non-discrimination ordinance that they passed. Okay, so we're talking sermons, emails, everything. They wanted to see, we want to know what you're preaching. You got to turn this stuff into the government. And so naturally, the pastors are not going along with this. But there's a couple different ways you could respond to this, I think. Now, the one thing in this case, I think the pastors have countersued, or someone on their behalf has sued, and so it's become this big court battle, legal battle sort of thing. And honestly, to me, I find that, I don't know if I want to use the word disturbing, but I just don't think that, I don't think that's the best way to go. I get sort of tired of when these issues happen, people constantly running to the court, sue and countersue and all this sort of stuff. I keep wondering, I keep asking myself, and I keep asking people, at when is the point where we begin to engage in civil disobedience, rather than as soon as Caesar does something, we then run to Caesar's system and beg Caesar for forgiveness and beg Caesar for remedy and leniency and all this stuff. I don't think the pastors should have lawyered up. I don't think the pastors should sue. I don't think the pastor should run to court. I think the pastor should simply refuse to comply. Just say, we don't recognize this. We're not going to give you our emails and our texts and all this sort of stuff. No, we're not going to do that. So they should just not do it. They should just ignore it. You say, well, they could get thrown in jail. Well, I think it's about time some of us get thrown in jail. And we're going to keep running to court and running to the court and running to the court. And it's running to the feet of the king, of the tyrant, and begging for clemency. I don't understand this. We need to stop and just simply say, we're not going to do this. We don't even recognize the validity of this. It doesn't even rise to the level of validity that we should respond in a legal manner to legitimize this criminal action that you're engaging in. On the other hand, here's what I do about the sermons, and this is what I think the pastors ought to do. In fact, not only those pastors, but I think every pastor in Houston, every pastor in Texas, every pastor in the entire United States. This is what I'm going to do on Sunday coming up. I've decided, as part of the sermon, I'm going to address this issue. I'm going to talk about this issue. I already talked about it one time. I'm going to talk about this issue again Sunday. And I'm going to talk about Queen Parker specifically. I'm going to talk about homosexuality, some gender issues. I'm going to preach what needs to be preached, and I'm going to print out the sermon, and I'm going to mail the sermon to the mayor's office in Houston. She wants sermons that people may have, that pastors may have talked about her, or may have talked about gender identity issues or whatever. I think that's exactly what we should do. We should give her our sermons. Why should we hide? If they believe what they preached, then they should stand boldly on what they preached. Unless they're 501c3s and they're afraid because they did say something political, which I don't think they should be afraid of that either, but just go ahead and do it. If you believe what you preach, send her your sermons. And I think every pastor in the United States ought to type up their sermon, stick it in an envelope. Don't email it. Don't Twitter it or Facebook it. Use regular old-fashioned snail mail and send it to the city offices in Houston. Can you imagine? I would love to see 1 million envelopes with sermons in it bombard the mayor's office in Houston and just say, okay, we heard that you wanted pastors' sermons that may have talked about this issue or may have mentioned you in their sermon. So I thought I'd go ahead and save you the trouble. Don't know if you wanted to subpoena anyone outside of Houston, but we're going to go ahead and save you the time for that. We're going to go ahead and volunteer these sermons. I think every pastor in the United States, and even if you're not a pastor, maybe you've heard a good sermon, copy it down, stick it in an envelope, and send it to the mayor in Houston. I think that's what we ought to do. Wouldn't it be great? Can you imagine them having to handle all that mail in Houston? I think that'd be a good way to send a message. I mean, we're always talking about shutting down the switchboard. All they do is turn the phones off and ignore you. But somebody's going to have to deal with this mail if we would do this. And I think that's what we ought to do. By the way, if you want to do that, the address is City of Houston, P.O. Box 1562, Houston, Texas, 77251. City of Houston, P.O. Box 1562, Houston, Texas, 77251. That's what I'm going to do. I hope you would join me in doing that. And by the way, I don't know if you heard this, but some of the folks tried to get together a petition to make their voice heard about this issue, and Twitter shut down the petition. So Twitter might also be some folks for the pastors to send their sermon to. Make 2 copies, get 2 envelopes, buy 2 stamps, and send it to Twitter's offices. That's 1355 Market Street, Suite 900, San Francisco, California, 94103. 1355 Market Street, Suite 900, San Francisco, California, 94103. That's Twitter's offices. So I think we ought to get 1 million pastors in the United States to send copies of their sermons to Twitter and the good folks at the mayor's office in Houston, Texas. They want our sermons? Let's give them our sermons. I'm not ashamed of what I preach. Are you? I think they need to hear it. And apparently, she wants to hear it. So let's oblige her.
The Krisanne Hall Show. She's Liberties Lobbyist. Krisanne Hall Show. She's Liberties Lobbyist.
Welcome back to the Krisanne Hall Show. This is Pastor J.C. Hall filling in for Krisanne today. Glad you joined along with us today. And I hope you will join with me in responding to the subpoenas from Queen Parker in Houston. I think we ought to just be real Christian about this and go ahead and respond in love. Amen. I would love to share my sermon with you. I would love to share with you what I preach. In fact, if you don't have a sermon, why don't you go to the dollar store and get a Bible and mail that to her? And then get you a pocket constitution, stick that in an envelope, and mail that to her. You want to know what we preach, Miss Parker? You want to know what I preach? I preach the Word of God, and I preach the message of liberty. Here's a Bible and a constitution. Apparently, you're clueless about both. So, thank you for the subpoena. But I want to close with this thought. I was studying today and meditating today, and it hit me, the more I study history in light of the biblical text, the more it seems clear that God ordained government ultimately to be a picture of the failure of man. So in fact, you remember the nation of Israel that God ruled over through the prophets. They demanded a king, and their demand of a king, when they demanded King Saul, give us a king, God said to Samuel, they're not rejecting you, Samuel, they're rejecting me. So in fact, the whole notion of a state, and by the way, God then allowed it, God ordained it, See, that's the thing. You ought to be careful, because sometimes God will give you what you ask for. He will ordain your desire. And that's exactly what he did. And he said this establishment, the entire establishment of the notion of a state, capital S, is closely entangled with a rejection of God. So in fact, and this just proves itself over and over again to be true throughout history. And I think when you shine the light of the biblical text on the history, you see that clearly. And so I think God ordained that to show the failure of man. So in fact, our trajectory should be away from the state, away from government, and back toward a closer attachment and dependence upon God. And so in fact, I think if we are to be moving in the right direction, we should be moving away from government. Since a move away from government is a move toward God, and a move toward God is the only thing that's going to facilitate a sound and healthy relationship with your fellow man, then that has to be the trajectory. And then a move toward bigger and bigger government, more and more government, a move toward the state, a trajectory toward statism, is a move away from God. And in fact, that is the essential picture of what the Bible refers to as Antichrist and the Antichrist system. It is an ever-expanding government upon the shoulders of a man, or on the shoulders of men, rather than on the shoulders of God. And so, as we move toward the state and toward statism, we move in the wrong direction. When we move away from the state, that's a move in the right direction. That's the biblical direction. So limited government, eliminated government, I think is spiritual, it's biblical, and it's the way we ought to be headed. Stop bowing at the feet of king government. Let's turn away. Let's say we will not comply with their illegal demands. But if they want to know what we preach, hey, I say let them know. Mail it. Mail it. Mail it in.